Hello, this is Peter Holloman speaking, and this is a presentation about the CoastWatch Utilities. This was a talk given to the CoastWatch annual meeting in Santa Cruz this year, July and August 2017. Now I've worked for CoastWatch since 1997 developing software, and so this talk is about that software that's used for viewing and analyzing satellite data. So as an outline for my talk, I'll start with some historical perspective about why the software was written and what influenced its development over time. And then I'll talk about the initial version and progress up until now and its functionality. And then also how to download, where to download, and how to find out how to use the software. And finally, some of the latest features and the future directions that we'd like to take. So first, the historical perspective. In 1997, I went to work for the West Coast regional node in La Jolla, and our only really satellite data product was sea surface temperature from the AVHRR sensor on board the NOAA polar orbiters. And we received data from the National Weather Service in Monterey, and because of errors in the satellite navigation, every day in the morning I would come in and hand correct to match the coastlines to the image data, and then we produced sea surface temperature products in a special CoastWatch format on site at the West Coast node. So for data distribution, we had a web server, and we distributed data in various regions and resolutions. Sometimes, before I was at the lab, we mailed out data on floppy disks, and every day we also printed browse images of the West Coast, the full West Coast, and on a color printer, and kept them in a binder for reference. We also had a distribution, a monthly distribution of the El Niño Watch advisory, which was created by hand drawing curves of observed sea surface temperature versus climatology and writing up a description of the conditions. One of the oceanographers at the lab did that for us monthly. Now, we also had a registration form. Data and browse images could only be accessed by users who had a username and password and had filled out a registration form with their contact information, as you can see on the right-hand side, the third page, and had agreed to only use the data and information for non-commercial purposes. We had special software for DOS, actually, and could be run from Windows using a DOS prompt. The DECCON software, decompression and conversion, which would convert our data products to a GIF or raw binary file. We had a piece of software called CWIPS, written in 1994 by people at the Great Lakes Lab, that would create a PostScript file, and it looks a lot like the browse images that we create these days, which you'll see later in examples from the CoastWatch Utilities. And we also had CCoast, which was a package that ran on an 800 by 600 display from the command line from the DOS, and it had a lot of features in common with the current CoastWatch data analysis tool, the ability to display data with different color bars and different ranges, overlay text on top of the image, and do statistical calculations and so forth. Written by people at the Stennis lab at the time. Now, so some of the trends between 1997 and now is the number of data products has hugely increased. So we at one point had to go beyond the special CoastWatch SST data format to accommodate all the different types of data products that are there, that we have now. The sophistication of distribution software has greatly surpassed the original web servers and data files that we had. In terms of special permission, we don't have that anymore. So user anonymity has increased. We don't always know who our users are because they haven't had them signing forms and accessing our data with usernames and passwords. Analysis software has become much more available and free in some cases. And so all of these factors have impacted how the software began and how it's evolved over time. For instance, the increase in levels of number of users and level of anonymity means that we don't always have face-to-face conversations with the people using the software to find out what they use it for and how it can be improved. And the number of products available and distribution software such as Threads and ERDAP have required the analysis software to adapt to more generic formats and to a greater set of satellite sensor geometries. So now the section about the initial version and development and functionality of the software. The initial version was designed to run the West Coast node website and scripts that were, the website was actually replaced in 1998. And we had code in the CoastWatch Utilities to read and write CoastWatch SST data files, render them to images on the fly, using the web interface on the website, and convert to other formats such as ArcGIS and NetCDF, binary, and text. And at the time, this website was a revolution. There was no other website that could do these things with the CoastWatch data files. Now, since that time, the source code has been constantly growing at approximately a linear rate. Number of code lines here on the left-hand side of the graph. Not only in number of code lines, but also in complexity and functionality between 1999, when I first started recording, and 2017, this year. Now we have a code divided into a number of source components. The user interface code that runs the CoastWatch data analysis tool takes up almost a third of the code lines, followed by the data I/O layer, which reads and writes the metadata and image data, rendering for the color images, and projection code for handling the level 2 swath and level 3 map projection coordinate transformations. Now, I like to think of the functionality of the utilities as being divided into separate operations on the data. Information operations to extract information from data sets, modification to modify existing data and create new data, and then conversion tools to export the data to other formats. And the information routines include tools to summarize the dataset metadata, date, time, satellite, sensor, variables, data statistics and sampling to compute the minimum, maximum, standard deviation, and to perform discrete sample extraction, and also maps of the data extents, geographic coverage maps. The modification tools include the ability to compute generic math expressions on data sets. So for example, in this case, channel 4 minus channel 5, diff 4.5, and you can save that data to the data file. We have utilities to create a time series composite of multiple files, either the minimum, the maximum, the mean value, the median, the first or the last value in time. We have angle computation such as solar zenith, latitude, and longitude, and finally registration from level 2 to level 3 map projections. The conversion operations include tools for converting, or rather importing to HDF, which is the format that the CoastWatch Utilities use internally for data processing, exporting to other formats such as ArcGIS, binary, NetCDF, and text, basically formats that are useful to other packages. Rendering to color images with vector such as coastline data and bitmask overlays, cloud masks, for example, also custom overlays, and rendering those images to data rather to PNG, JPEG, GIF, GeoTIFF, PDF, and also not shown here, but important rendering to red, green, blue color composite data, and also vector wind data and currents. and a tool that encompasses some of the functionality for information and some of the functionality for conversion, and also adds the ability to interactively view the data with different palettes and overlays, is the CoastWatch Data Analysis tool. And in another video, I'll show a demonstration of CDAT. Now, as for download and usage of the software, there are a number of packages available from the coastwatch.noaa.gov website. We have versions for Linux and Windows and Mac. They're all 64-bit versions. And currently we're on version 3.3.1, which is our stable version, and we have beta versions of 3.3.2. In order to help use the utilities, we have a number of resources available. The first one is a set of YouTube videos that show the installation of the CoastWatch Utilities and the basic usage of the CoastWatch Data Analysis tool, CDAT, and that is linked from our software distribution page. We have a user's guide that shows all the usage of the command line tools and CDAT, and more information about data formats and the version history. We have a set of Unix manual pages for Linux and Mac users who are using the tools from the command line. And we also have a set of help menus that can be found by looking for question mark or help buttons within the CoastWatch Data Analysis tool windows and dialogues. For data formats, the CoastWatch Utilities reads HDF4 and NetCDF 3 and 4 format. We have support for a number of different level 2 sensor geometries, including AVHRR, MODIS, VIIRS, and Himawari data, so polar orbiter and geostationary satellites. Level 3 data, we have support for most map projections, 31 different types of map projections. The tools can use, read NOAA 1B, HRPT data, LAC and GAC stored in the class archive back to 1978, and GRIB data, as well as OpenDAP, currently not enabled, something that we'd like to re-enable due to recent interest in OpenDAP. Users of the CoastWatch Utilities include NESDIS for use in AVHRR polar orbiter navigation quality. The AXPO SST group uses it for developing SST and cloud algorithms. CoastWatch Central Operations uses the CoastWatch Utilities for creating level 3 products, rendering them, format conversion, and also for chlorophyll in situ versus satellite matchup analysis. And CoastWatch data users use the utilities for data product viewing, rendering, and conversion. So some of the latest updates to the software and future updates. Our latest beta version has very much improved NetCDF 3 and 4 read support, bug fixes, and enhancements to handle specifically the CF metadata from thread servers and from the ERDAP server. New HDF libraries, the newest available. We now have the ability to run statistics on polygon bounds in the command line statistics tool. We have improved the GeoTIFF output to handle universal transverse Mercator projection, and many bug fixes. Generally, the bug fixes are done on request and as the priorities allow for. One of the major new developments this year is the ability in CDAT to handle point features, and the ability to read the IQUAM SST quality monitoring system data files that are created by Sasha and John's group, and overlay those data points on top of the satellite image, only those measurements in a given month that are specific to that satellite image. And you can filter the data by attribute and assign symbols to certain types of points, as you can see in this image. Now, suggestions for the future are the ability to compare satellite with in situ data. That's something that we're building for the SST, the IQUAM SST data system. Data processing within the CoastWatch data analysis tool rather than just on the command line. And new NOAA vector coastline data as an option to the existing coastline data. So in summary, I talked about the historical perspective, where the software started, how it's been developed, and the current functionality, where you can download it, and tips on resources for using the software, and also the latest features in the beta version and future update directions. I'd also like to acknowledge funding from Sasha Ignatov, John Sapper, and Paul DiGiacomo, and the testing of the CoastWatch Utilities by CoastWatch Central Operations and Node users. Thank you very much.